Hi, welcome everybody. It's Mike Newton down here at Lytham Golf Academy. We've got driver head-to-head here, and it's TaylorMade, and it's M3 and M4. So, obviously two new drivers of TaylorMade have just launched to the market, very, very popular. And obviously two slightly different drivers. So M4 hasn't got any adjustability on the head. Obviously you've got the neck sleeve, so you can dial in the loft and face angle. M3, again, you can dial in loft and face angle with the neck sleeve, but you've also now got obviously the movable weights and the sole track, which is now a new wide track as opposed to the T track that we saw in M1. So a little bit more adjustability with M3, maybe dialing in that spin, that launch number a little bit more accurately. So we're going to maybe just put these head to head here, just see if there is a difference here. I'm going to try and set these up as much as I can the same. So both 9.5 loft in the neck sleeve, just as standard, so 9.5 square sort of setting here. And I'm going to put the weight track on the M3 with the weights more towards the back. Okay, so it's similar to what M4 is doing, because obviously M4's got that weighted screw at the back, CG slightly sort of further back from the club face. And we'll see if there's any difference in that setting. And then maybe hit some shots with M3, moving the weights more forward in that lower spin, and see then how much of a difference in that low spin there is, if anything. Okay, and we'll see maybe which one might suit me more, maybe give you guys an idea of which one you might go out there and see which is obviously more suited to yourselves. Right, so we're going to start off with M4 first. So I say 9.5 standard neck setting. I've got this in a tensile white in an X flex, so 70-gram shaft. A little bit more suited to myself, and I'm going to use the same shaft in the M3 to keep the test as equal as we can. So presenting M4 down by the golf ball there, it looks really nice. I think it looks fantastic. You know, the silver finish there now is good. Obviously got that little M4 logo and that inside heel section there, but it sits great. I think the look is very good. So we'll get this first one hit here. So we'll hit a few shots with M4 and then we'll move into M3. Wow, that felt lovely. Nice ball flight there. Just slightly up that left hand side, but strike felt really good. And that got over 302 yards. That was a nice start there. That spawned at 2,300, just under 2,400 there. So not a bad sort of spin number there. So that was a nice start there with M4. Let's get the second one hit here. Wow, that's a beautiful ball flight, really nice ball flight. Again, just slightly up that left hand side, but I've hit that really well. That's 309, struck that great there. Really pleased with that. 2,400 spin there, so nice controlled spin. Now we know M4 is generally the more game improvement drive, or rephrase that, more forgiving than maybe M3, as we've seen in the past there with M2 and M1. M2 was more forgiving than M1. Now, TaylorMade is sort of claiming now both these drivers are much more forgiving than the previous sort of models here now, which we see that's the theme across all brands. It's not just TaylorMade, it's all brands. So M4 is generally more the sort of more game improvement, obviously less adjustability there. So I think through a fitting session we'd generally start with M4, see if we can sort of get that working. If we can't quite get the spin where we need it or the launch where we need it with changing the neck sleeve, then that's sometimes then when M3 comes into it and we can start moving weights to maybe try and change that launch and that spin, just to try and dial it in for that particular golfer. Okay, again, that's a good strike. I've pulled that a bit more there. That's got a bit more left. Not really overdrawing massively, but just pulled that a bit more than anything. So 308 yards, decent distance, but I have pulled that a little bit there. That spawn about 2,100. So pretty low spin there, but I have, as I say, just pulled that a little bit up that left-hand side. Okay, so I think what we'll do now is we'll switch that shaft over into M3. We'll hit 3 shots with that in the weight in the back section and see how that compares to M4. And then we'll change a little bit of weight in M3 and see again how that might just change that spin number. Right, so now I've got M3 in my hands here. So I've changed the same shaft over, so tensile white in X, 70 gram, and I've positioned those weights in that back section of that wide track there now. So that's as most I can get the CG moving back as possible, similar to like M4 there, position that CG back. So ultimately this is putting M3 in its most forgiving sort of setting basically. So we'll start off with that and see what numbers are sort of look like and ball fly, and then as I say we'll switch those weights more forward and see how that sort of number adjusts or changes if it does. So we'll get this first one hit. So again, I think as I put that down by the golf ball, it looks very, very similar to M4. I think just because literally I can see the M3 logo on that inside heel, and then it's just that little splattering of blue at the back where M4 is a little splattering of red. That's really the only differences I can sort of physically see between those two clubs here. The shape of the head, the size of the head looks identical. And let's give this first one a hit. That's awesome. Absolutely nailed that. That feels fantastic. Beautiful ball flight. Strike was good. And that's travelling 308. Really nice straight golf shot as well. Don't want that one back for sure. And that's put at 2,400. So similar first shot there. Very similar sort of spin number area that we're seeing maybe M4 there. So great start there with M3. Beautiful ball flight. If only you could hit them like that every single time, it would make the game so much easier. But unfortunately we don't. But I'm going to try to on this shot. Okay, again, good strike there. Just slightly up the left, but not by much at all. Great strike there. That's really flown out. That's 314. So look at that spin number on that one. 1975, 1900. That's my golden sort of number in a way. I know when I get that number, I'm gonna get it easily into that three teens basically in a way in terms of that distance number. Lovely ball flight there. Right, so we're going to hit one more M3 with those weights in that back section, and then we'll do a little bit of jigging around with those weights here and see if that changes anything. So we'll give this last one a hit of this one. Oh, wow. Love that flight. Absolutely love that ball flight. Seems to be hanging that air forever there. Okay, yeah, great. Lovely straight golf shot. So we'll see some straighter shots there with M3. Spin slightly higher that time. That was 2,600 there. So strike felt great there. Just a little bit higher on that spin number. But again, really quite nice and straight. Right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to switch these weights from that back section all the way to the front section, which puts it in its more powerful position in a way in terms of slightly lower launch and a slightly lower spin. Let's see if these numbers change or the average of that spin number changes in any way, shape or form. Right, so now reposition these weights so the both of them are as far forward on that centre track as we possibly can put them. So as I say, that pushes CG slightly forward towards the club face, which helps to, or should help to, generate slightly lower launch, slightly lower spin. So we'll see that on here. We know strike can override these weights a bit more than anything, so hopefully I keep my strike consistent. The strikes have been really good there for those M4, M3 hits, so if I keep the strikes the same, then hopefully we're going to see, or should see, some slightly lower sort of spin numbers, but we'll put that to the test now. So we'll get this first one hit. Wow. Okay, well it's definitely not launched lower. Still plenty of flight on there, but that did look a bit low spinning. It's a long hit. That's 315 there. Let's look at that spin number there. Yeah, just short of 1700. Wow, I think I did catch that a little bit higher up the face, which will have pulled a bit of spin off there, but possibly those weights are helping a little bit there as well. Okay, again, that's a really good solid strike there. 309. Getting some serious distance for these and hitting these really sort of well. That's spun at 2,400, I think that was. So that was at the lowest of spins there, actually. Okay, again, good strike. Just pulled that slightly up that left-hand side. Again, that's running well over 300, 313, a little bit pulley granted, but 313 there, spinning around that 1600 mark there. Again, probably just dropped a bit of spin there because I've just turned that over a little bit more there. But let's go and have a look at all those numbers together, a little bit more detail. We'll see maybe how the M4, M3 and then M3 with different weight settings all sort of compare to each other. Right, okay, so let's have a look at some numbers here. So we've got M4, M3 with a weight back, M3 with a weight forward. So we'll look at some numbers here. So ball speed, a little bit more ball speed with that M4 there. You can see 164.5 against 163 and just under 163 with M3. Launched a little bit lower there. I'm not didn't really sort of notice that, to be honest. It seemed to peak out there similar. Spin number 2-3 with M4, 2-3 with M3 with a weight back. Very similar sort of setup there, so obviously you can see some very similar numbers. And then when shoving that weight forward, you see that spin's just dropped off a little bit. There's a couple of low ones there and a slightly higher one there. The low ones are where I've just gone, well, the first one was perfect really. The second one I just missed that a bit left there. You see 40 yards left there. I've just got that bit pull, bit overdraw left there, which is why the launch has come down. That's a bit more me than the sort of club really. But as an average there, that spin's just come down a little bit, and we sort of expect to see that as those weights moving that more sort of forward position. So I think from that position, or from those three shots from each of those clubs and settings, they see 284 carry was the one with the weight back there. Felt quite solid, and to be honest, when you move those weights back, it makes the club more forgiving. As soon as you shove the weights forward, it's a little bit more aggressive when you miss the middle of the golf clubs in terms of gear effects and twisting of the club face. So sometimes a little bit harder to control shot direction. So definitely on average there you can see 4 yards, 6 yards, 6 yards offline. Very, very straight golf shots with that M3 there. Compared to say M4 and I mean the M3 with weight 4 wasn't too bad, but just that last one there just spoiled those numbers a little bit. But definitely the middle one there was more consistent on the numbers. Right guys, so there we go, M3 against M4 and a little bit of experimenting with some weight settings there. So I think, as we know, both very, very good drivers here. Obviously a lot of technology in them, there's a lot of different settings, especially in M3 there, that you need to sort of get dialed in. And really you can't, for me, do that without being on a launch monitor, getting measured and being obviously with a good fitter who's got some shaft options, knows a little bit more about how to change the club and how that can affect to suit in for a certain individual and a certain player in terms of their shape of shots they're experiencing. So yeah, as I say, two very good drivers there. I think definitely goes to show you've got to get fitted for these, so you know, go and see a local fitter, good fitter who's got the options to try with a launch monitor measure is definitely a must-do experience for you. Okay guys, thanks very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. Do comment down below, let me know your thoughts on that video about M3, M4. Follow my social media platforms, they're all in the description down below as well. Hit that subscribe button, much appreciated. Thumbs up the video, share it around, and hopefully catch up you all very soon.